Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Not Just Leadership podcast. I'm so grateful that you're joining us for today's episode. I hope you've been enjoying the podcast so far. We're on episode number 7, and today we're talking about the theme of purpose, a theme that's very close to my heart, and that I think is something we all need to reflect on to find our purpose and to ensure the activities and things we're doing are aligned with our purpose in life. And so we've talked about a few different topics since starting this podcast: courage, communication, volunteering, and now purpose. And so I hope during these podcasts we can explore topics related to leadership and discuss them together and help you reflect and become a better leader and better person in the community. Also had the privilege of interviewing a number of wonderful guests, and we have some really exceptional guests lined up for the next couple of months. So stay tuned for every second episode. I'll be interviewing a guest. But today's episode is on purpose. And I think we've been looking at these different topics throughout the podcast. The quieter sides of leadership, the values that we have, the beliefs that we have, leadership activities that define who we are, and also not just what we do, but who we are as a person. I think that's really important. And that's why I wanted to come to the theme today of purpose. It's that invisible thread that connects us to what we do and why it matters. And if you reference Simon Sinek, you'll know that he has this idea of people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So being able to articulate your purpose to people and to yourself is really important. Not just to ensure what you're doing is in alignment to your values and your purpose, but also showing other people why you do it and being able to articulate that and being able to communicate that. It's definitely something that I've struggled to do, something that I'm trying to work on, honing in and defining my purpose and knowing who I am and why I do what I do. So it's something that requires, I think, a lot of reflection and time, deep thinking, writing down notes, doing a brainstorming session on your own or with someone to kind of figure out what is your purpose. And so knowing your why, knowing why you do things anchors your leadership, because it gives you a reason for what you do. Your purpose is your reason for being. It's that fuel that you have that gives you the consistency, that gives you courage, that gives you clarity in what you do. It's the fuel behind it all, your purpose. And so many leaders, can still succeed without, having a well-defined purpose or without knowing their purpose well. But the difference is the leaders who do know their purpose and are driven by their purpose, they also at the same time, they're creating meaning for themselves and for others. They're, giving back in a way that fulfills them personally and also fulfills their community. And so if you've ever seen any of Simon Sinek's content, you'll know he has the golden circle. So the why, the how, and the what. And he says that, most people know what they do, what their job is. They know how to describe it, what they actually do. Some people know how they do it. So how do you go about doing that? What tasks do you execute? What initiatives do you put in place to achieve that goal? But very few stop to ask why. Why do you do something? What's the inner motivation? What's motivating you to get up every day? And so reconnecting with why you do something really helps, particularly when you're going through a period of burnout or doubt or self-censorship, when you're like, I can't do this, I'm not going to say anything, I'm out of energy. But bringing it back to why you do it reignites the flame. It gives you the meaning to push on a little bit longer, to get up another day, to keep going at it. And so if you had everything, if you lost your job, if you lost your title, if you lost all your achievements to your name, why would you keep getting up in the morning? What would be your motivation? Maybe it's your faith. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's something else. So think about, what is that? Why do you get up every day? And if you didn't have your job, which most of us spend, statistics show how long we spend in our work. We spend a lot of time in our work and people find a lot of purpose in that, and that's fine. But what is what is deeper than that? Let's go below the surface. What is really driving you? And if you lost that job, if you lost that job title, if you didn't have that achievement to your name anymore, then why would you still get up? What would be the motivation? What would be your purpose? I remember a time when I was volunteering in Portugal, in Lisbon, and I was repackaging. It was in a center where you go and collect food and repackage food, and we're repackaging food for the homeless. And it was a very simple task. Wasn't difficult work, but it was definitely a type of activity that really connected you to people. Seeing the homeless come in and collect the food packs reminded me how giving up your time that's aligned with your purpose isn't necessarily about doing something that's really prestigious, but doing something that has meaning. And being in that center, volunteering, having our presence in the room, that's what really mattered. Showing others that we were there, we cared for them, and that we wanted them to have a full tummy, wanted them to have a meal, and that there was people out there looking out for them. So working in a team, I learned the dynamics of volunteering in a team. Other people were there wanting to serve their time, doing it quietly, doing it, I was on my work holidays from France. And so this really links back to leadership, because what I found is volunteering in that situation, it showed me that I would get up and do that even if no one was watching, because I felt inner motivation to give back to people who didn't have as much as me. And I had been blessed to be working in France and had a wonderful opportunity. So I wanted to use my time to go and volunteer in my holidays and, spend time giving back to the community. And so Simon Sinek also talks about how we find our why. It reveals itself to us when we're contributing, not contemplating. I do think critical reflection is really important, and taking the time to reflect is a great way to map out and really hone in on what your why is. But as someone who's very passionate about volunteering and contribution, I think that's also where you see it in action. You see, okay, I can see while I'm doing this, I can see the difference I'm making. I want people to be able to open a business. I want people to be able to go to school. I want people to be able to explore their faith. I want people to be able to study that course. And so the action of serving helps us understand our purpose. Because if we're out there in the community, we're practicing what we preach without necessarily even knowing it. And through that, we're able to really hone in and find out, okay, this is why I do it. I've seen the benefits. I've seen the impact. And this is my why. This is my purpose. So you can have all the achievements to fill your resume. You can have all the titles to make yourself feel good. But if you have a purpose, you have your heart filled. It's more than just a list of things. It's a sense of gratitude, and it's a sense of accomplishment, not necessarily professionally. It can be professionally, but personally inside yourself. So let's turn this into daily action. So how can we shift things from just being an idea to practicing it, to finding our purpose? I talked about contribution and not necessarily contemplation, but I do think reflecting regularly is a great way to live with purpose. Reflect regularly. Ask if what you're doing aligns with your values. I think that's number one. Reflect regularly. Number two is choosing consistency over intensity. So doing activities and purposeful actions that are consistent, rather than just doing something that's really intense and then doing nothing. So being consistent over time, because if you're motivated by your why, then you're going to have the stamina to continue things through and not just do one-off. Having the consistency to continue things through. I really think that's important. So consistency over intensity. Being anchored in that purpose will allow you to sustain projects, will allow you to sustain work, will allow you to sustain volunteerism for long periods of time because you're grounded in the right reason, you're grounded in your why. And the other thing is connecting our purpose with people. So sharing it with other people, this helps you grow why you do something. You share with people, it helps you practice and reinforce to yourself, okay, this person asked this, you get a lot of people ask you, why do you do that? And sometimes you really have to think. I've had quite a lot of people asking me this question recently. And so this is why I wanted to bring this up on the podcast and talk it through. Because people want to hear, people want it to be shared with them. And it actually helps you better understand yourself when you're able to tell people about why you do something. It grows your why and it reinforces it to yourself and to others. And then they understand, they're like, okay, he's doing that because of that. And you don't always have to make it make sense to other people. But the thing is, through this process, you'll make it make sense to yourself. So purpose isn't about being perfect. It's about being aligned. It's about alignment. Is this aligned with who I am as a person, with my values, with why I'm here on earth, with what I want to fulfill, with what I want to do? So it's about being aligned. It's not necessarily about being perfect, and none of us are perfect, but it's about being aligned. So let's talk about how your why can inspire other people, the ripple effect of that. And I just talked about sharing it with others. So sharing that purpose is contagious because when you acting with your why, other people notice. When you're doing something with a spirit of excellence, when you're doing something from an inner belief, people ask you, hang on, you just did this, and this, and you did this. Like, what's motivating you? How do you have the energy to do it? And you can bring it back to your purpose. This is my purpose. This is who I am. I want to see this X, Y, Z happen. Fill in the blanks. Reflecting on how we can bring purpose, brings trust to ourselves, brings trust to others, brings collaboration, brings empathy. And it allows you to really, I think, fulfill activities with, I guess, that connection with others because they understand why you're there and what you're there for. What's your motivation? Sometimes people might second guess you and say, I'm not sure about this person, not sure about what their intentions are, what their motivation is. But if you're able to share your why with others, you'll have a ripple effect on them as well. And so as I've talked about in other episodes, courage gives us the strength to act. Volunteering gives us perspective, broadens our horizons, our worldviews, and purpose ties it all back together. It's the heartbeat behind it all, behind your leadership, behind your acts of service, your purpose, your values, your why. Another quote from Simon Sinek, which I really like, is the goal isn't to be perfect. It's to wake up inspired, fulfilled, and go home proud. And we can often get stuck in this vicious cycle of perfectionism. I feel like it's something that I fortunately haven't struggled with too much, perfectionism. I do like to view it more through the lens of excellence, doing things with excellence, but I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a perfectionist, which I think has probably helped me a lot to do a lot of different projects, to work, study, volunteer in a lot of different countries, because I haven't always overthought it or overanalyzed it. So I think that's something I've definitely seen in friends and colleagues is the struggle for perfectionism, and how that can kind of metaphorically choke you and stop you from doing things. And if you're confident in your purpose and you're confident in who you are, the perfectionism fades away, because you know that you do something, you do it to your best ability, you do it with a spirit of excellence, and you've achieved that. You've aligned with your purpose. You've done that activity out of an act of service, out of an act of why and who you are. So I feel like this idea of perfectionism, we can really pull it off. We can really pull it apart from ourselves, we can really lose this weight of perfectionism by focusing on our purpose instead, and reshaping things to do things with a spirit of excellence. Excellence is a topic I'd really like to go into more detail on the podcast. You would have heard me talk about it before, but I feel it really closely aligns with our purpose and why we do things and who we are. So purpose is something you have inside of you. And I think we can journal, we can brainstorm to help write it out, to help put it into words. And we can also see it in action by contribution, by volunteering, by giving our time, by getting involved in different projects, by starting your own business and then starting to understand through that, okay, I'm doing this because of this. I think it's easier if we understand our purpose from the get-go. But a lot of the time, it takes this journey of self-discovery. It takes this journey of saying yes to opportunities, of trying new things, that we better understand our purpose, and then we're better able to articulate to people. Because at the end of the day, when you're getting involved in different initiatives, people are going to ask you why you're doing it. And at some point, you want to be able to come up with a coherent response and reinforce it back to yourself. Okay, this is why I do it. This is who I am. So I really encourage you to take a quiet moment this week to reconnect with your why and ask, does what I'm doing here reflect what I believe in? Does what I'm doing here reflect what I believe in? And if you're spending your time on things that aren't contributing to you personally and professionally, aren't aligned with your purpose, aren't beneficial to you in one way or another, then, let's realign ourselves, recalibrate ourselves, and really focus in on fulfilling our purpose here on earth and, responding to our calling. Purpose is what gives your leadership meaning, okay? So it's not about the titles or the recognition, it's about the direction. I talked about alignment earlier. It's about going in a direction where what you do is connects back to your motivations as a person, your heart, your desire to serve and support others. And I think that's the really beautiful thing about purpose is that when we find our purpose, we better understand ourselves, other people can better understand us, and we can continue to self-reflect and to take a step back and say, okay, this is who I am, this is my why, this is my purpose. Does this activity align with who I am? Does this activity align with my purpose? Does this align with my why? And through this, we can, I guess, have a life of fulfillment and have a life of enjoyment as well, because we love what we're doing. We connect with it deeply, personally, and it will make you a healthy, happier person. Knowing your purpose, I think it's so important. So I want to thank you so much for joining this episode, a little bit of a shorter episode today. Purpose is such a punchy topic, and I think we can find our purpose through contribution and also through inner reflection as well. And so I really thank you for your time. Join me next week. We have an amazing guest from the Pacific island of Kiribati. So I'll leave it there for now. I won't give too many details on next week's episode. It's going to be a great episode. Really looking forward to that episode from my guest from Kiribati. But I hope you've enjoyed episode 7 today. Thanks once again for listening in. I really value your time and appreciate you tuning into the episode today. So thanks, take care, and see you soon.